Hello, welcome to another Maine SBDC webinar. My name is Kelsey Brearden and I'm with the Maine SBDC State Office at USM. And we are joined today with a Maine SBDC Business Advisor from AVCOG, Lori, and now new Center Director of AVCOG, Lori Allen is joining us to do today's webinar. Today's topic is developing a brand identity. So we're going to be going over the nuts and bolts of establishing a brand identity. We know you can see Mickey ears or that Coca-Cola C or the Google G, and immediately identify that brand. And so it's really important that even as a small business, you guys are establishing your own brand and getting out there so people can recognize you. So we'll be going over lots of tips and tricks today. Feel free to take notes, but today's webinar is being recorded. So you will receive a follow-up email afterwards that will include a link to the recording and the slides from the presentation, as well as any other resources we may mention along the way. So if there's something you need to rewind to or anything like that, you can, but feel free to just sit back and listen today. If you have any questions along the way, feel free to put those in the chat below. We'll definitely have time for Q&A at the end if we don't answer your question along the way. We have a pretty great group here today, so we're excited to have everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us. We ask that you do stay muted throughout the presentation, but during that Q&A section, we may change things up. Like I said, you'll get that follow-up email later today with all of that information, but if you have any questions at all, feel free to respond to any email that you have gotten from me and it will end up in the right place. So if you are not familiar, we are the Maine Small Business Development Centers, and we are here to help the small business owners in Maine with anything they could need, basically. So we are a free, confidential business advising service, and our business advisors are established throughout the state. So we can get you set up with someone who's close to you or specializes in your industry, and all of that information to sign up will be in that follow-up email as well. So without further ado, I believe we are ready to get started today. So I will pass it over to Lori.
Great, thank you so much, Kelsey. And thank all of you for spending your lunch hour with us. Hopefully it's going to be a really informative session for you all. Kelsey told you about the SBDC. I'll tell you a little bit about me. I am a native Mainer. I grew up in the Oxford Hills region, but I'm what's called a boomeranger. I left, lived out of state for a while, came back, and I've probably done that 3 or 4 times now. So hopefully I'm here to stay for the moment, at least. And over the past 20 years or so, I've been working in economic development, and maybe half that time I've been working doing small business advising for a number of different SBA affiliated programs. So prior to joining the SBDC, I worked in Massachusetts. I ran a women's business center in central Massachusetts, and I also did some work with a Veterans Business Outreach Center. And so over the years, I've worked with hundreds, if not thousands, of small business owners. And I wanted to do this workshop because I see a lot of startups, but also folks in their first, second, third year of business, and where they're trying to build their brand and trying to build their sales, but it's not quite gelling, it's not quite working. And I've found over time, like, people tend to really want to jump into the fun stuff, the logo design and the website design, but there's a lot of steps that you really want to take before you get that far. And so I want to talk about those steps today to really help you set you on the right path as you're developing your brand. Now, this workshop is called Developing a Brand Identity. We're going to work on some pieces today. It is not the end all be all of brand identity. We could spend weeks talking about branding. But my goal here is to give you some building blocks and that can get you started. I will also say that during the course of this presentation, I do use some national examples of branding, and there are fabulous examples of small businesses who are doing branding beautifully. I just simply use the national examples just so we all have the same reference point, and we can all sort of, you'll all understand what I'm talking about when I mention these brands. So I don't have to explain any of these brands to you, any of these logos. Those three circles over there, we know that's Disney, right? My daughter could recognize a Target from a mile away when she was like 2, because she learned very early on that symbol, the Target symbol, meant Target. And she thought it meant she was going to get a new doll. So these visual representations of our brand they're sort of hardwired into us, right? We know what these symbols represent. The thing though is that branding is much more than just these symbols. Branding really encompasses a whole bunch of things. And I want to make something really clear. It's a way of identifying your business, but it's about how your customers recognize and experience your business. Or it conveys what you do, how you do it, who you do it for, why you do it, and what the benefits are. I think one of the biggest mistakes people make in branding is that they make choices based on themselves and not their clients, not their customers. And we're going to talk more about this as we go through this presentation, but as you're developing your brand, think about connecting with your customers. What do your customers want? And what's going to resonate with them. And it may not necessarily be the things that you like. So what are some components of your brand? Obviously, your name and your logo, those are first and foremost out there. There's also all those other visual things like the colors you use, the fonts you may choose, your slogan and your value statement, mission statement, your marketing materials, your website, social media, both the design, the pictures that you post, as well as the content that you post, and your business cards. But there are other pieces to your brand that you need to think about. And pardon the analogy, but if you're a Star Wars fan, you know the Force, right? The Force is what kind of flows through everything and everyone. Branding is like the Force for your business. It should flow through every decision and every aspect of your business that you make. So think about uniforms, for example. If you and your staff, if you have a set way of dressing, that's part of your brand. Packaging, I am guilty. I am a sucker for good packaging. I will buy things just because I like the package, but that is part of your brand. Your online reputation is also part of your brand. So for example, if you own a restaurant and all of your marketing materials pride yourselves on being like a family-friendly restaurant and it's very clean, but then you go on to Yelp or Google or Facebook and all your reviews are saying, I went there, it was dirty, I went there and they weren't very nice to my kids, that's going to impact your brand. So you need to be watchful and mindful of that. Things like price and value. As you're thinking about branding in your target market, lower prices aren't always the best thing. Value is also an important component of your brand. And then, customer services. How do people experience your customer service? How are you treating your clients? Anything else? I'm seeing there's a lot of activity in the chat, and thank you all for introducing yourselves. We've got a good statewide, lots of different industries out here. What other components of brands do you think I may have missed? You can just put it in the chat. Anything specific? Your car is wrapped. Yeah, that's a great point. Somebody had a question with internet reviews. What do you do to help curb negative feedback? I feel like we did a presentation recently on this, Kelsey. You might be able to send the link. But one of the things is to respond to it, not in a argumentative way, but you'll see sometimes business owners will say, I'm sorry you had a negative experience. Please contact me directly and we'll see how we can make it right, or something like that. There are ways you can do that. And I think with online reviews, the important thing is to acknowledge them. And you can't always solve the problem. Like some people they're going to be mad, and it is what it is, but at least you can show to other people that you've responded, you take the concern seriously, and you're going to address it. A brand within a brand. Yes. We will talk a little bit about that, because that is, selling on Etsy or other platforms, you are under their umbrella, but then you also have your own brand identity that you're promoting. So we'll get there. Okay, so you take what I mean. Branding is a whole big field, and we're gonna start working on things here. So just think about comparing brands for a moment, right? You can walk into any Target or any Walmart and pretty much buy anything you didn't know you needed, okay? But they're very different experiences, right? You walk into Target, the merchandising is a little different than Walmart. Things are laid out a little bit differently. Visually, the colors are different. Target, everybody wears a red shirt. Walmart, everyone's wearing those blue kind of vest things. Walmart, it's all about price, right? It's all about the price. And you walk through and you'll see the signs, $8.88 or $7.88. Everything's 88 in Walmart. And Walmart's really targeting cost conscious people, right? Target, on the other hand, they have a different brand. They're kind of built their brand on the stereotypical suburban soccer moms, and so it's not just different merchandise, but it's just a different feel. There's some intangible elements to branding. Similarly with Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts, most of us fall in one camp or the other. McDonald's and Burger King, you can get a cheeseburger either way, but what do you prefer? Do you identify with one more than the other? A lot of people my age, they love McDonald's because some of their earliest memories were having birthday parties at McDonald's, and with the Ronald McDonald cakes that I don't even think they make anymore, right? So there can be an element of nostalgia to some of the choices that consumers make. Ford versus Chevy, those have been fighting words at some of my family reunions. Some people really identify with certain brands and certain models. Ben & Jerry's versus store brand. There's nothing wrong with store brand ice cream, but what is Ben & Jerry's other than costing more? There's other things about it. So for example, Ben & Jerry's has some socially responsible investing. They take some more conscious views about certain things in the world. And so you're not just buying ice cream, you're kind of buying into that ethos of what Ben & Jerry's kind of stands for. And then LL Bean versus Cabela's, again, they sell very similar products, but some people are going to tilt to one more than the other based on their own preferences. So a good brand is going to do several things for you. One, it's going to communicate your company's vision and mission. It's going to tell people your identity, what you stand for. It's going to help you attract the best customers. And we're going to talk about target market in a minute, because that's so critical to branding, is understanding your target market. A good brand is going to help you position you in the marketplace. It's going to be memorable to your customers. It's going to help you maintain quality, credibility, and reliability. And it's going to create a basis for growth. Even if you're starting out thinking, I'm just going to start this business, it's just going to be me. I don't ever want to take on employees. 5 or 6 years down the road, it may be a completely different story. You may be so busy that you need to take on staff. You may be so busy that you actually do need to go find a brick and mortar store front. So position your branding with the idea that even if you aren't thinking about growth now, down the road you might be. So let's talk about your target market and how decisions you make with your branding can impact your target market. And I'll do this by telling you a story about a client I had years ago. I'll call her Janet. It was not her real name. But Janet came in to meet with me, and she had started a cleaning company. And she called her business Janet's Cleaning LLC. So she was a cleaning company. That's all I knew. And so as we got talking, she was telling me about how she was really into environmentally friendly products, so much so that she was making some of her own cleaning products. She was growing lavender in her garden, and she was using orange peels and lemon peels to help make some of the cleaners she used. And she was really passionate about this. And she really felt like it was important to people to use these products in their homes where they live. But there was nothing about her business name that told anyone that. It just sounded like some lady named Janet started a cleaning company. But there was much more beneath the surface to this. The second challenge with Janet was she gave me her business card. And her business card was black with like almost neon purple lettering. And the first issue was it was really difficult to read. It was just hard on the eyes. So the second thing is that it really didn't connotate a cleaning company or even any of these eco-friendly values that Janet had for starting her business. So I asked her, I said, Janet, tell me about why you chose these colors. And she said, well, they're my favorite colors. And she sort of proudly, like at that point, I realized she was dressed all in black and she was wearing purple socks and had a purple scarf. And she did. She chose these colors because they were her favorites. And this is where I want to underscore it's not about you. It's about your customers. So Janet's target market were women of a certain income. They had a family. They wanted to have environmentally friendly products used in their home. Okay, that was her target market. But nothing about the name of her business or her marketing thus far really said anything about those values. So we couldn't change Janet's business name because she'd already filed her LLC paperwork, but we did develop a tagline that kind of helped define. So on our business card, it said Janet's Cleaning Service, eco-friendly cleaning for your home. And so at least when people saw that tagline, they could go, oh, okay, that's something I'm really interested in. The other thing is she had it might have been her daughter or a niece, I don't know, who happened to be a graphic design student, but they actually designed her some new business cards. And luckily business cards were cheap. She could get a bunch more printed very inexpensively, but she did just a simple white business card with like a green tree and some little lavender flowers. It was really, really well done. It was much more upscale and really spoke to the clients and spoke to her target market. And so this is why you're going to hear me say over and over again, it's not about you. You can't just pick things that you like. You need to find things that resonate with your customers. And I'm just going to zip over to the chat. And so, okay. All right, Kelsey, you'll tell me if anything immediately comes up, right?
Yeah. Actually,
okay.
Stacy was wondering, do you recommend using a DBA to help rebrand if you are an LLC? And so a DBA is a doing business as name for anyone
you
who hasn't heard that.
It's a decision that you'd want to make. I mean, my goal is that to get you off on the right foot so you don't have to do that. But if you've got a name that you feel like isn't contributing to your branding, that is certainly an option. Hang on, Kelsey, my screen froze. There we go. If you work with me for any amount of time, this book and this concept will come up time and time again. And it's called Start With Why. It's a book written by Simon Sinek. If you're not a reader, there's a TED Talk that he does that goes into this, gives you the sort of 30,000 foot overview. It's also available on YouTube. And his premise is that people don't buy what you're selling, they buy why you're selling it, okay? And this is why before we were married and had a kid, my husband used to hike all the time. He would like go away for weeks and hike parts of the Appalachian Trail or do long distance hiking. And now that we're old and have a kid, we don't do so much hiking anymore. But Eric still goes to REI and LL Bean and buys ridiculously expensive hiking boots. And he does this because he identifies with those companies. He identifies with that lifestyle that those companies present, okay? It's not just about the hiking boots. It's about the story of it. It's about why they're choosing to sell the products they choose. So I'm going to give you a few more examples about this. So here are some taglines and slogans that are very common. We hear them all the time. So because you're worth it, okay? We all know that's L'Oreal. It's a cosmetic company. And the thing is that ostensibly they're selling makeup, but what they're really selling is self-esteem. Their message is that, you know what? You deserve to go buy a $10 lipstick. You're worth it. So the feeling you get, it's pulling on your emotional strings to go buy their products. Nike's just do it. Yeah, they're selling shoes and they're selling athletic wear, but what they're really selling is a lifestyle, right? Just do it. Just get up out of bed. Just go run those 3 miles, just get stuff done, okay? So when you're buying Nike products, you're buying into their branding, you're buying into their philosophy. Got Milk is, that whole campaign was about mostly celebrities and very fit athletes, and they weren't selling milk, they were selling strong bones and strong teeth. Like a Good Neighbor, State Farm. Yeah, they're selling insurance, but they're also selling, it's like, you can rely on them. They'll be there for you if something bad happens. Now, this one always gets me because the divorce rates in this country are 50%, if not higher. So the idea that a diamond is forever is kind of laughable, but we buy into it, right? That's their branding theory. We're buying into this notion if there's this diamond, either I give a person a diamond or I get a diamond, our love is forever. And so you're buying into that ethos that, rather than, it's not just the ring. And then, America runs on Dunkin', I don't function without my iced coffee. I'm a diehard iced coffee drinker from Dunks, and no one's going to pry that iced coffee out of my hands, right? And we do. It's not like America runs on Dunkin'. We function based on drinking that coffee. So through this, you can see it's not just the what, it's the why. And so my challenge for you guys today is to really start thinking about your why, not just what you're doing, but why you're doing it. And so I want to work with you guys today on creating a draft tagline. And what this can do is it's going to help you tease out some key ideas, some key words, some key phrases that are going to help direct your branding and help you create a brand identity that can see you through all of the next steps. So here's an example, and we're going to look at Steve Jobs, and hopefully everyone knows who Steve Jobs was. And most people would describe him as, he was an entrepreneur. He was very creative, and he was also a designer. Like, one of the things about Apple products, it wasn't just their function, but it's how they were designed. It was very new and exciting. And you might also say that Steve Jobs challenged people to see the world differently. Again, it's not just about having, when I grew up, a phone was what hung on the kitchen wall. I never thought that I'd have basically a small computer and walking around in my pocket all day. And our lives have changed for better or for worse. Our lives have changed based on the technology that this company has created. And then you would also say Steve Jobs is ambitious. So there's a number of ways to kind of fit this together to create a tagline. But in this case, we could say that Steve Jobs' tagline, changing the world through innovation. Okay, changing the world through innovation. That sounds a lot better than just, yeah, I make computers. Do you want to buy one? Right? And this is why Apple has been so successful, is they're not just selling the technology, they're selling the idea and the concept and the lifestyle and all those other intangible things that come through when you buy an Apple product. So what I want you to do, and I want you to just grab a pencil, grab a pen, back of a napkin, and I want you to answer these questions really quickly. And these should be like gut reactions. Don't overthink these. You can overthink it later. But I want you to just write down, first of all, 3 words that best describe you. Okay, just do that right now. I'll give you a few seconds here. Do you guys want to give me thumbs up, or if you want to put anything in the chat, let me know. If you want to move on, you got your 3 words. How do you want your company to help others? So great question in the chat. Describe yourself or the business. So if you're a solopreneur, which I would gather probably some of you are your business. So, and your values for the business are going to come through. So there ought to be some synergies between how you're describing yourself and how you're describing the business. And you can go back to the Steve Jobs example to kind of suss that out. So the second thing is, I want you to, how do you want your company to help others? What are you doing for people? Okay. Are you changing the world? If you're changing the world, how are you changing the world? How are you making people's lives different or better? And then finally, how would your colleagues, friends, or family describe you? Like, what's a good word to describe that your family would tell you? And we're going back, I'll go backwards if I can to give you the Steve Jobs example. So 3 words that describe you, what you're doing in the world, and then a word that other people would describe you. Okay. Now the challenge is to take a look at what you've written down and come up with your own tagline. Do we have anybody brave who wants to put it in the chat? What they came up with in the chat? When I do this workshop in person, I make people, it's easier to make people contribute. Thoughtful, creative, determined, great. Anybody else have anything came up? So calm, creative, loving, okay. Creative has come up a couple times. Now, if you've used creative, are you artists? Are you doing some sort of creative work? Artists, okay, yep, artists, okay. I have a tagline for my business, this exercise, oh, that's good. Creative, compassionate, open-minded. Okay, good. What about the second piece of it? How are you helping people? What are you doing? What does your business do? Putting back, giving back, okay, giving back to the community, okay. If you heard that, putting back into the community, what does that say to you? I'm struggling with that question as an artist. Yeah, artists, it's difficult. I've worked with a lot of artists and it can be a challenge. Power tool to build self-esteem. Okay, great. So landscape art provides people with a moment of calm in their day. Oh, that's interesting. I like that. So you can see, if you start, and you may have to tweak this a little bit. This is something that you're going to kind of want to come back to, leave, tweak, maybe get some feedback from other people in your life. But as you develop this tagline, you're going to get closer and closer to what your business is really about and how you want people to experience your business. And that's going to really help your branding. The next thing we want to do, I'm going to move on here from this exercise. I'm going to talk about a mission statement. And this is similar, but different. A mission statement might be a little bit longer. It might be 2 or 3 sentences rather than just one. But you may have some crossover concepts and words. So a mission statement, it's presence-based. It's what you're going to do. It's not what you're going to do in the future. That's a vision statement. That's another workshop. But a mission statement is, this is what we're doing. And you kind of work in some of those core values that you have. And then it's action-oriented and attainable. It's what you're doing. It's what your business can achieve. And you write it in a way that's like present. So, and I picked out a couple of examples for you. So for Wix, Wix is a website design service. You can get an account, you can design your own website. Their mission is to create your own professional web presence exactly the way you want. So in this case, what they do is they do websites. The value is individuality. They want their customers and their clients to be able to do this exactly the way you want. They value that. They know that their customers want that option and value the option to design something however they want. Okay. LinkedIn, connect the world's professionals to make them more productive and successful. So what do? They connect professional people. Okay, that tells you who their target audience is, professional people across the world, making them more productive and successful. They think that what's going to resonate with their customers is that the use of this technology and this website is going to make them more successful and productive. Okay. And then Warby Parker, this was I had to recently get new glasses and I just about fainted when I got the bill. So I was looking online for other options and I came across Warby Parker, and they offer pretty snazzy glasses at what they deem a revolutionary price. And they were a lot cheaper than what my eye doctor did, while leading the way for socially conscious businesses. So what they do is they sell glasses, but what they're trying to target, the customers that they're targeting are those who, there's something else about it, right? Yeah, they want to look good in their glasses and they need inexpensive glasses, but they're buying into a socially responsible company, right? So again, it's more than just what they're selling, it's the why. And so your mission statement is also going to help you hone in more on the why so that you can communicate to your customers what makes you different. So now it's your turn. What, and again, there may be some overlap here, particularly for a solopreneur, but what does your company do? And excuse me, specifically, what problem does it solve, or how are you making people's lives better? And again, just take a few minutes, think about this, try to not overthink it, but just write down what problem are you solving for people? How are you making people's lives better? Okay. Maybe give me a wave or a thumbs up or something to let me know. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's hard not to use professional jargon. That is, and that's something you just have to work with. And sometimes the thesaurus is your best friend because you can actually look up, what are other words that I can use? Because you can only say, how many times can you say community? How many times can you say artwork? There's just, you're going to have to find different words. So you will have to play with it. Oops. And then the second piece that I want you to do is, 1 to 3 things that you feel like your customers value. What are your customers' core values? Again, this doesn't have to be perfect. You can always go back and tweak it. And those values can be many different things.
Are these values that the customers hold,
yes,
or that you hold? Yep, customers.
And in theory, they may be both. They may be both. But really, I want you really to put yourself in the position of your customers. What do they want? What is going to attract them? What are you offering that's going to resonate with them? Not from just a particular product, but those intangible things that we've talked about so far. If anybody's feeling brave, you want to go ahead and put something in the chat. If anyone's feeling brave. You guys are doing great in putting stuff in the chat. I love it. Changing the way you see the world through your camera. Yeah. So that tells me that D is probably offering classes on how people can use their cameras. Maybe the DSLR. D, is that anything close to what you actually do? Okay, see, that's excellent. So I'd probably tweak that a little bit more, but that's great because I saw her, she put that out there and I knew what she was doing, right? Farm to table grown by your neighbors. Yep, photo tours. Great, great. Okay. So as this ritual lab is dedicated to keeping the spirit of the people fed. Okay. Okay. Oh, so like ritual. Yeah. Okay. I was just going to say ritual in like ritual ceremonies. Gotcha. Okay. Interesting. Okay. You guys got this. All right. So just kind of tuck these away for now. And again, we keep working, keep these things in mind. And as you start to build your brands, keep coming back to these because I think these two core exercises, they help you articulate what you're doing and why you're doing it in a way that can better communicate to your customers what you're all about. Okay. We ready to move on? I'm going to move on. One more question here, one more comment. Values, saving. Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. Okay. I want to talk about choosing a business name. And I know some of you may already have this, you've done this, and it can be an agonizing experience. I gave you that example a little bit ago of Janet's Cleaning. And you could, hopefully I demonstrated why that wasn't the best name for her company, right? And there's lots of reasons for that. Typically, 9 times out of 10, using your own name in your business name isn't a great idea, okay? There are some exceptions, particularly here in Maine, especially in a rural Maine, rural area where maybe your customer base are locals, right? And they know you and you've lived in that town for 30 years. And, growing up, we had a mechanic and my dad would take the family cars, just take them down to see Mike. I didn't know until I was in my 20s that Mike actually had a business name, and it didn't have Mike in the title, but we knew Mike fixed cars. And so in rural Maine, you might be able to get away with using your own name, but you do want to be careful because it's not always like, so Becky's restaurant, for example, unless you know Becky, unless you're a local, you have no idea what kind of food Becky's restaurant is serving. And I'm just picking Becky's out of the air. I don't even know if there is a restaurant named Becky's. I'm sure there must be. So use your own name don't do that unless you've really, really thought hard about it. And are your customers going to know who you are? Okay. And the reality is that, we may all aspire to being Oprah and being a household name, but for the most part, you're going to want to choose a name that tells people what you do. You want to think about, what does your business name convey to your customers? Does it tell them what you do? Does it give them a sense of either what you do or the ethos or the why or something to clue them in? Because likely they're going to find you, through a Google search. And if your name doesn't give them an idea of what you're doing, then, they're going to skip right over you. Does it complement your brand or confuse it? Okay, I've I've had several situations where people have chosen a name for their business, but then they go to get their website domain, their URL, or set up social media, and the names are taken. And so they wind up doing these really crazy things. They, spell things in weird ways, or they put punctuation in, or they'll actually get a totally different URL for their business. And it just muddles the waters. It confuses things. And sometimes you don't even know that you're on the right web page. So you want to try to keep things as streamlined as possible. And I know like a lot of times the URL you want or the social media page you want has already been taken, but try to be creative in the ways you do it that aren't weird. And I guess that's probably not the best way to put that, but the more creative you get with spellings, the less likely people are going to be able to find you. The other thing, from a practical sense, you do want to check. The Maine Secretary of State has a corporate filings database, and you may want to check and make sure nobody else is using your name. See if those domain names and social media accounts are available. You want to Google to see if any of those businesses already exist in the US. Are they doing what you're doing? You may have to do a trademark search. Don't be too general and allow for growth. So choosing a business name can be really, really tricky. And so this is where I like to do those tagline exercises first, because you've already got some names and you've got some words and concepts that can help you as you're choosing a name. So we've got here, Ella Bean built a brand on their name. They did, but remember, Ella Bean, when they were founded, isn't what it was today. And for everything I say, there's gonna be an outlier, right? Ella Bean built on a name. But the thing is that most of us don't even think about Leon Gorman. We just know it.
Wasn't it Leon Bean? Wasn't
yes,
it Leon?
Thank
Price?
you.
I love that name. That's the only reason that I remember it, because
thank you, Kelsey. Yes.
You're welcome.
I live 10 minutes from there. You'd think I'd know. But the brand grew based on what they were selling, right? So the name was sort of incidental to that. Oprah, Beans, and Walmart to build their brands. Yeah, not looking to take on the world. Exactly. And that's sort of my point, is you want to keep it using your own name. It's very rare that that's going to work for you. Creative but not weird. How to walk that line. That's exactly the line, right? And that's why I really hope that people take the time to wade through this, because so many times people come to my office and they're like, here's the name of my business, and I file my LLC, and when it gets to trying to market and build out the branding, it just doesn't hang, because they've just sort of they've crossed that line into weird, or they haven't gotten creative enough. So it's tricky. And I think that's what I really want folks to understand, is it's not so easy to just pick a name. You got to really think about it. Okay.
It looks like Carrie might have a question before we move on. Carrie, do you want to unmute yourself?
Yeah, hi. So I'm Kari Smith, and I have I'm an archivist, and I have a business. We just started up. The issue we have is that myself and my wife, who are working in this business, are well known by our names.
Okay.
And now, but we don't want the company to be, Smith and McGovern, because that's weird and general and whatever. So I have a business name that I have from 15 years ago. So we're having that issue of like, our names are well known. And if we said, hey, come hire Smith and McGovern, a lot of people in our domain would be like, excellent. But marketing the Global Archivist name is like, how do we make sure that it's known that it's the two of us? Or like, is that part of the tagline? Is that just like making sure it's on all the web pages? Like that's my confusion right now. I'm trying to work that bit out.
I think you can go in it two ways. One is to use, you said Global Archivist. Is that the
Yes.
name, Global Archivist?
Yeah, Global
Okay.
Archivist. Yeah.
So you could say Global Archivist, and your tagline could be, you know, speaking to your experience, you know, bringing 20 years of combined experience to such and such. I'm trying to think. I think part of it though is how you communicate it too. So if you were to send out, you know, an email or a mailing to your people who do know you as your names, and let them know, hey, we've formed this company and this is who we are now, and here's our contact information. Part of branding is about how you're communicating your branding. So I think that's something to think about, but I do think adding a tagline could help. And I think I'd have to know a little bit more about what you're doing to really advise you. But, and in any of this, by the way, you know, if we get done and you want to talk more, you're welcome to contact me, or just go on the Maine SBDC website and request an advisor, because all of us can help you through these questions. So, but these are the challenges that we face when we're trying to pick a name. It's hard. Okay. I don't really know that I answered your question other than to validate that it's not easy, but I do think you have options with a tagline. And then again, just with how you're communicating your brand out there. Okay. Another part of your branding is what's known as an elevator pitch or elevator speech. And what this is the idea is that if you're in an elevator, say you're at a conference and you're getting the elevator with somebody and they're like, what do you do? And you know, you want to introduce yourself. And this is something that I really like people to have down before they expand into their branding. And again, you can take what you just did with a tagline and your mission, and you can use that to build on your elevator pitch. You know, these are building blocks. So, and these are just some examples I came up with. So for example, if owning a yoga studio. Hi, I'm Jane. I own a yoga studio that helps older women regain flexibility and strength through a new program I've developed. Okay, tells you what she does. I like to end elevator pitches with a question because it underscores that it's a conversation that you're having. An elevator pitch isn't necessarily where you go in for the kill and go in for the sale, but it's getting to know somebody, getting to figure out, is this somebody that you want to spend the time to get to know and develop that relationship so they become a client. Because if somebody says, you know, have you ever practiced yoga? No, I don't want to. I don't know. Yoga is not my thing. Well, if you're at a networking event, somebody tells you that, you know, okay, this is not a client, very nice person, not a client. I'm going to go on to the next person, right? Another example, I'm Steve. I own an environmentally conscious landscaping company that focuses on using native plant species. Do you use a landscaping service right now? And I like this example because you automatically know where Steve's coming from. You know what his values are, and you know what his target market is, right? You know that he's targeting homeowners who care about being environmentally conscious and using native plants on their property. So it's a very, you know what he's targeting and who he's targeting. I'm Joyce. I'm a financial advisor who works with young families. It's hard these days planning for things like buying a house and saving for college. How old are your kids? Okay. So in all of these, they're not even talking about the name of their business. They're telling people what they do. And to some extent, they're hinting at their values and why they're doing it, right? So Jane really cares about helping older women regain strength and flexibility. Steve cares about environmentally conscious gardening. Joyce cares about, you know, working with young families, right? Their target audience is really built in there. So we're not going to spend time on it today, but I would encourage you to take what we did in the tagline exercise and the mission statement exercise and apply those to creating an elevator pitch. Has anyone done an elevator pitch before? Is this something you guys have? A lot of people don't take the step to do this, and then they find themselves in a networking event, and then they sort of wind up stumbling over, well, what do I do? So have it concise and be able to really explain very concisely and communicate what you do, but also the why, or what people are going to gain from what you're doing. Another thing that I want you guys to keep in the back of your minds when you're developing your brand is color. Okay, I mentioned my cleaning company friend who, black and purple, it doesn't scream clean. And you want to be really conscious of what the colors you choose in your logo and in your, your web design, what those are subconsciously saying about your business. So some of it's obvious, like environmentally friendly businesses, green, yellow, those are great colors, right? Because it just, that's what you're doing, it's green. Creative businesses, like we've got some artists on the call, purple. Purple sends the message that it's imaginative, creative, and also wisdom. Wisdom has purple and wisdom seem to go, sort of regal. Different colors mean different things, and they're going to represent your business in a different way. So if you're a therapist, you may not want to pick excitement. You might not want to pick a red, because I don't know, like I would want a therapist who was, warm and friendly, and yellow kind of resonates with that. But red to me, it seems aggressive, right? Red's in a very aggressive color. So that's the sort of thing I'm talking about, like really figure out what colors match what you're doing and how it's going to fit into your brand. Got a couple things to chat. Blue and orange, confidence, friendly, and trust and dependable, exactly on brand. That's great. That's great. Okay. We'll talk a little bit about online presence as well, because this is something that I also see people struggling with. A lot of folks here in Maine, they're using Facebook as their website, and that works. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But if you are developing a website, you need to make things cohesive, and you need to make sure that whatever colors and logo you're using, it goes throughout the website. It's also really great to have customer testimonials. And I know when you're first starting out, that's hard. But even if you've done volunteer work, even if you've helped a friend with something, I've worked with bakers who they were baking wedding cakes before they started their business. Well,
hey, Draven, come here.
Get testimonials from people who've had your cakes. They don't necessarily have to be official business customers, but they've had your cakes, they like them. That's a testimonial. Choose relevant social media. Okay, God only knows how many social media accounts are out there. There's Facebook, there's LinkedIn, there's Twitter, there's Snapchat, there's TikTok, Pinterest, and Instagram, and probably other ones I've forgotten about. And the inclination is to, oh my gosh, I'm starting a business, I've got to be everywhere all the time. And first of all, especially if it's just you and you don't have the funds to hire a marketing firm to do this for you, or if you don't have an employee that's going to handle your social media, you really, just for your own sanity, you need to limit it. 1 or 2 social media. I would much rather see somebody do 1 social media or 2 social media accounts really well than spread yourself thin. But the most important thing is figuring out where your customers are in the social media market. Okay. And so there's all sorts of studies, and you can just, Google. I am using something that came from the Pew Research Center, and there's the link, but they've done studies about demographic studies about who's where. So for example, I know that if my demographic, if I'm selling like home goods, for example, if I have a retail store, and I know that my customers are women probably between age 30 and 60, Well, they are by far using Facebook, right? Whereas if I'm targeting younger adults, they're on Facebook, but look, they're also on Instagram, okay? Doesn't make any sense in the world to spend time on LinkedIn if these are your target markets. Now, if you are targeting college graduates and people with higher incomes over 75,000, then yeah, being on LinkedIn, that makes sense. So do your homework, do your research, figure out where your customers are, and invest your time in that platform, okay? Because you'll make yourself crazy, and there's no point in spending time on a platform that your customers aren't there, right? You're not going to be reaching the target customers that you want. TikTok is actually an app. And it is, if you think Instagram's a rabbit hole to fall down into, TikTok is a real rabbit hole. But if you it's a video app. So TikTok is where you post videos, very similar to Instagram's Reels, Facebook Reels. And it very much trends to a younger audience, although there are huge pockets, like there's quilting TikTok, and it's women over 40 showing people how they quilt. And there have been some real success stories with small businesses on TikTok. There's a woman who developed planners for people who have ADHD, and her sales have gone through the roof. I recently stumbled across this woman who started an embroidery business, a hand embroidery, and she's selling these really beautiful kits. And so there are opportunities on TikTok, and we'll talk about videos in a minute, but it is something you may want to look at, especially if you have a visual product. Okay, I gotta get back to my presentation. Okay, so a few social media do's and don'ts. Create your profiles, use your tagline, did I skip something here? A headshot. Be consistent across your platforms. We talked about that. Ask for recommendations, endorsements. Highlight your work. Like I've worked with some artisans and craftspeople, like worked with a guy, he redoes floors, and he had the before pictures of these, this house that looked like it was going to fall down, and then he just beautifully restored the floors, and they were gorgeous, and it spoke not only to what he did, but the quality of his work, and he really took pride in that. And that was a really important part of his branding, was those pictures, because it just, a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? So don't discount that as well. Use personal posts judiciously and tie them into your work. A lot of folks will have this sort of hybrid. They have a Facebook account and half of it's posts about their family and half of it's about their business. You really want to separate the two. There are ways to kind of bleed in, because as a business owner, as a small business owner, you want your customers to know you, right? And there's a woman who I think does this really well. Her name's Erin French. She's the Lost Kitchen. She owns that restaurant up in Freedom, Maine, and she wrote a book, and she's got a TV show now on the Magnolia Network. But for example, one of the things, when she started out with her Lost Kitchen business, she started out in a Airstream trailer, right? And if you've read the book or followed any of her work, this Airstream is really prominent in her story. So when she got married, the picture that she put on her professional Instagram page was a picture of her and her new husband, but it was in front of the Airstream trailer. Okay, that's like branding. It's like an amazing example of how to bleed the personal into your brand, because yeah, you get this wedding, this wonderful thing, but the Airstream's right behind you, right? She's reminding you in a very subtle way, this is a business. You can sorry, I've been talking too long. You can post pictures of your dog. Everybody loves a good dog picture, a good cats doing dumb things, but tie it in to your work. Find a way to tie it in. Hey, my dog's here today in my office. Did you know that owning a pet, really increases your happy hormones, and it's part of a healthy lifestyle is to have a pet, that kind of thing. You want to build your online network too. And this is where the time really, it can be time consuming, but you want to reach out, to current clients and prior colleagues and start joining some groups. There are tons of social media groups that target your customers. And even, I've had some clients have lots of success on town or regional Facebook group pages. Like people will post, hey, I need a plumber, and they'll be able to pick up jobs there. It's time consuming, but they can also post things like, hey, I've got a plumbing business. If you need anything, call me. So it can go both ways. But think about that as a way to promote your business and your brand. A few rules of the road. I think we've covered all this, but establish a logo, use standardized fonts and styles, images, just keep it all along the same lines. Have some standards on any materials you do, whether it's print or online, and then really hold yourself, and if you have employees, hold them to those standards you set, right? So for example, I've got our SBDC logo in the corner here. That's one of the things when we do PowerPoint presentations for the SBDC, SBDC's logo is right in that corner. What you also want to do though is prioritize, like particularly if you're starting out, you're not going to have the funds to drop on, professional marketing and branding. We're just not. So take your time and do things step by step. And as you get bigger, as you grow your income and your revenue, you're going to be able to take on higher and higher steps in the branding process. So for me, the must-do items are that elevator speech, having that tagline and your mission statement, because it's going to inform so much more of everything else you're going to do in your branding. You want to have a logo, although I've had some businesses start out without a logo, and that's worked out perfectly well for them, right? Business cards, some social media sites, and then, a website with at least an about information. And as you grow, you can build your website out. But I would really, focus on prioritizing your branding, based on what you need, the cost, and then, what you have the opportunity for to do. I do want to just mention, and someone talked about Etsy in the comments. If you own a franchise or, what I would call a direct sales company, so like Herbalife, for example, or, there's some candle companies or clothing companies that are direct sale, you want to be really careful. These companies have done their own branding, like it's established and you can't deviate from that. And you may be also limited in the types of marketing that you can do. I've worked with some where they weren't allowed to do radio ads, and radio ads made sense for that business, but they couldn't do it because of the contract they had. So if this is something you're looking into, some people love it because it's there, it's done, it's plug and play. For other folks, they want that creativity and variety, and you can't own a Dunkin' Donuts and wake up and say one morning and say, you know what, I'm not doing donuts anymore. You can't do that. So this is, if you're leaning in these directions, just be careful and know what you're getting yourself into when it comes to the marketing and branding. Few last tips and tricks. I know we're running a little bit over here. Get a professional email account. It's worth the little bit of money it costs. I still see people with like, hotchick123@yahoo.com, and that's the email they're using for their business. Don't do that. Get some semblance of a professional email account. It's also worth it to get a professional headshot. And if it's not just, a headshot traditionally, maybe it's a picture of you actually doing what you do. But you really want that as part of your branding. It's important. It shows that you, it shows who you are. It shows that you're serious and your company is important to you. And this isn't necessarily the time to have a goofy picture, although in some ad agencies, for example, if you see pictures of their staff, they are kind of goofy pictures because they're trying to convey that they're fun and hip and creative. So that might work for you, but in general, you want kind of a standard photo. Always carry your business cards with you, always, always. Canva.com, if you don't know about Canva is a website where you can actually do some pretty basic, and if you get the professional version, you can do a lot of stuff on Canva, but you can create a pretty decent logo and use it for your printed materials inexpensively or for free. So that may be something you want to look at. Video, we spend a little bit of time on TikTok, but video is becoming more popular across every platform, and that includes websites. People want to see you in action. And so even if it's just like an educational piece, do a video where you're introducing yourself, here I am, this is my name. Do your elevator pitch within a video, right? Instead of traditional blogs where you're typing a couple of paragraphs, maybe you do a video blog, right? YouTube, I didn't even mention YouTube. YouTube is really, really grown for educational content. You can find out how to do anything on YouTube, except I will say, don't try to fix your dryer off what you watch on YouTube, because my husband almost electrocuted himself, so be careful. But it is a great site for if you're trying to attract people and you can educate them on something. And then another one, we have a marketing consultant that worked with us, Corey Zimmerman, and she recommended this book and I really, really like it. It's called Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. And it's really great for small businesses, and it kind of takes everything we've talked about today and you can build on it from there. So that is all I have. This is how you can get in touch with me. And there's my headshot, which I think I paid $50 for. So, it doesn't break the bank. If you want to reach out to me or any of the advisors, you can just go to mainesbdc.org. And I am sorry we did run a little bit over, but if you're able to stay, I would encourage you. I know we've lost some folks. So testimonial, let me just see. Canva is amazing. Use Wix for logos. Yep. Do I think business name at gmail.com is okay? Or should it name it? I prefer name at business website. Gmail, it's definitely better than Hotmail. But one of the challenges with Gmail is a lot of stuff winds up in spam. And so I have a huge problem. People will email me, or I'll email people and it'll wind up in their spam bucket and they don't think I've responded to them and it's in their spam. So Gmail's better than nothing, but it really should be either your name or it's president@mycompany.com, that sort of thing. Yeah, emails and spam folder, it really does happen. So any other questions? Anything else that we didn't talk about today that you wished we had? Yeah, you can, yeah, exactly. You can pay for domain, you can get the email, and then you can set it up to forward to your Gmail account. You can do that. You can do that. Okay, well, I hope this was helpful. I appreciate you guys taking the time. I hope you learned something today. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you, Lori. And thank you everyone for coming. Like I said earlier, I'll send out that follow-up email later on today. That'll have all of these resources. And we hope we see you at the next event.